come away from the noise, even just for a little while, is a choice. Not everyone has the privilege to have a wilderness where they live, or a park where they can go and sit, or a peaceful space. But there is a way to take your mind to that peaceful place, and that isn't by artificial suggestion. That is by imagining something that is real. For instance, all the images, bar one, that you see on this particular channel are real locations in real places, and I took the image. I recorded the films where there are film. And there were others that I took that were a bit jittery, and so I didn't upload them, because if you're trying to relax, the last thing you want to do is go on a nauseating journey. So if I capture the image and I capture the location, and I can sit in this space and talk to you and bring a little bit of what I am looking at, so that you can imagine a place that is real, a place where sometimes you can look at just an image and it can be relaxing. I don't promise any miracles, but sharing a healing journey on the healing pathway is with a commitment. I don't choose to go and make other people suffer. Many people over my lifetime have decided to hurt me very much. Now, if I'd asked for it, then I welcome it. But in many cases I hadn't. I just happened to be going about my life, and people making wrong assumptions and knocking me down because they don't feel very good about themselves. For a time I had a stream of visitors, and some of those people came to me for help. That you'd have neighbours peering through the window. Literally, I had an obsessive neighbour. Someone fixated to harm me, and when somebody is disturbed and twisted in their mind, something has caused that to happen. What was the conversation that was going behind closed doors? The perpetrators of abuse know exactly what they're doing, but they're thriving in a world of darkness. The ego is battling to rise up by whatever means they can, by kicking other people down. Those who try and manipulate and do whatever they can to seemingly get a promotion in a job. We all know that over the course of history, a lot of people have had to make it to the top by tremendous compromise to themselves. And there are people who are seemingly at the top, who've made their fortune and even in the public eye, and they're struggling because that dark secret that they were tremendously ashamed of came to light. But before anyone goes to knock down and even seek to know what somebody's dark secret is and get some sort of sense of satisfaction that that person is imperfect, look in the mirror, because nobody's perfect. Everybody's got something that they wish they'd never done. Maybe they've mixed with company that they wish they hadn't mixed with. Maybe they've been in situations that they wish they'd never been in that place at that time. No, nobody's perfect, but we can strive, all of us, to shed off those cloaks that aren't belonging to us. We can choose to be in the company of people who are caring. We can choose to be in the company of people who understand the meaning of healing. We can choose to be in the company of people who pray, who are faithful. And somehow, with love, with being loved, with being cared about, with being accepted wholly for who you are, however broken you are, however much you're struggling, if you are struggling, whatever your situation, even if you're on the floor, even if you're on the streets, that someone cares enough to value you as a human being and remind you that you are worthy of love, to remind you that you are meant to be here, and for whatever reason our circumstances might be at the time, there might be a greater purpose to all this. How is it that I studied for so many years for a law court to condemn me? How is it that a judge would consolidate the abuse and suffering by seeing me wholly unreliable? And why is it that somebody who boasted of 20 years of crooked deeds, that I don't know how serious it is, but let's just say economic crime with involving other people for the sake of trying to live out a lifestyle that nobody's impressed by, is it worth it? There are people who are living way beyond their means because they think by having something, by wearing designer labels and even paying quite a substantial amount for fake designer labels, that it makes them look better. No, it doesn't. There are people who are billionaires, they don't even wear designer clothes. You'll never see them with a designer watch. In fact, if anything, they will walk around and they look like they're just been out on a casual Sunday walk, and they might have been. But they're not out to impress. Because when people focus on achieving and service and purpose, they're not filling their egos. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're too busy doing what they want to do. They might be collaborating with other people, being able to attract colleagues and associates that will trust you. That's important in business. And it's just as important in friendship. Now we come back to family, and family treachery seems to be the order of the day that's exposed on the world stage. But while people are pointing to certain, let's say, royals, putting all their stuff out there, why is it that two people in particular are getting so much attention, and yet the lesson is perhaps we need to look at ourselves. Do we have siblings? Have they set out to destroy us in some way? What is that all about? That one sibling who is trying desperately to get ahead doesn't realise that by collaborating with the other sibling, they might be able to do something really good together and unite a family. But it's easier for people who are very successful to condemn the other person that they already put down. It's difficult to be the sibling that's being a target because of some insecurity or even envy because of a position or a privilege. back in the ancient times, the firstborn were chosen for a purpose. It's something that was written. That doesn't mean the secondborn don't have a purpose. Sometimes people are born with a lot of responsibility, while others seemingly have an easy life. But how blessed it would be to have an easy life without having the responsibility. Some people want everything. They want people to regard them with such high esteem and honour. The only thing is, what they're doing isn't particularly respectable or honourable. It's easy to neglect ourselves. It's easy to question, who are we? What do we really want? Where are we heading? Who is in our life? Are there people that are good for us? Are there people that we need to distance ourselves a little bit from? Do we need to set up tighter boundaries? And if you're not sure about where you're at, you might be in a place of healing and you don't really want to be with a lot of people. You might just want a quiet time. And sometimes this quiet time is the best time to allow healing, to nurture our hearts and souls, and to rethink about what's most important in life. If you've got food to eat, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, shelter, you are truly blessed, because millions and millions of people are still starving and they barely have anything to eat. The roof over their head might be a tin shack or a shelter somewhere. Their clothes might be rags. They might not have shoes on their feet. The West are being tricked into believing this consumerism of labels to people who can't afford it really. Not when it comes at the price of losing people who are dear, of compromising your soul and doing things that you wouldn't normally do, never in a million years, just to have a designer handbag. And there are people who haven't got a lot of money and they get very angry at people with money. Talk about people who've made it legitimately, people who've worked hard, people who would be regarded as wealthy. Well, let's stay with this designer handbag craze. If you are a wealthy person, or you've worked really hard, if you want to go out and buy a handbag for 20, 30, 40,000 pounds, that might be the equivalent of somebody who hasn't got a lot of money saving up and buying a handbag for 10 or 20 or 30 pounds. The perspective is that there are people who have various different economic status. If somebody has little money in comparison to a millionaire and they buy a diamond ring that is the equivalent of maybe a month's wages. That ring might cost maybe a couple of £1,000, maybe. Yet a millionaire might be buying one a tremendous amount more in material value. That doesn't mean necessarily that the person is any lesser value who gets the £2,000 diamond ring. That means that the person is valued enough to have an engagement ring put on your finger in the first place. To be loved, to be wanted, to be accepted, to be cherished. There are people with so much money that if they blew that sort of money, it'd be like giving 10 pence to somebody who is on the street. But I notice there's a lot of people who are envious and hateful towards very wealthy people without knowing their story, without knowing their business, and without knowing how many employees they have on the payroll. The argument that they are not paying taxes. But if an employer has 10,000 employees and they're all paying taxes, there is such a thing as corporation tax, and there are advantages to maintain companies. If those companies weren't there, those 10,000 people would be without a job. What is more valuable? Providing the 10,000 people with employment, or for the taxpayer to find where that extra money comes from elsewhere to pay to keep them when they're not working, when they have no job? The people that envy those who have something that they could even possibly learn from and be inspired from are going to find that they're never going to progress forward, because being in a state of envy and jealousy and hate and vengeance is negative, destructive energy. But being curious as to why somebody made their money, for instance, no names, but somebody starting their business in a garage or even in a shed. They had nothing. They slept on a bench or on the floor. The parents probably thought they were absolutely mad, crackers, that they were wasting their time. But they believed in something, what they were doing. And from there, they grew. I notice there's a different attitude in America about people growing and becoming rich. There's even a book, Think and Grow Rich, that became very popular in its time. But we can't just become rich just for the sake of it. Sometimes we have to do something, we have to contribute something. And what we contribute has to be valued for it to get revenue. When people feel valued and feel loved and appreciated, they'll always do far more. But when the wits come out and people are bullying and terrorising and threatening and intimidating people, there comes a point where they think, you know, I want nothing to do with this, I'm not even going to contribute. The system that wants to have intelligent people who don't realise how intelligent they are to get a job in a shop, something is wrong. I'm not saying the whole system does, but there are individuals, and those individuals who are pushing that agenda, they haven't developed themselves. The ego that wants to rise up in power will always oppress other people. And a country led by egos that couldn't care less about the people just leads the people into a plummeting situation. And that's why you get odd people who step away from all that. They don't want part of the political system. They don't want to get involved with the arguments and the debates, because I tell you what, all the debates in the world do not get anything sorted out. There's only one thing that gets things sorted out, If there's a legal process where people have been violated, get it to court, get a president on it, and it won't happen again. But England doesn't mind violating people, and that's the problem. And because the people don't mind being violated, they get violated even more. They come up and they rise up, we're wrong, this, that and the other, there's all those foreigners to blame. No. We're all to blame for our own problems. We allowed people who are not born to rule to make adverse decisions over us. We live in a time where a great many people are sick, where they're depressed, where people are forced to stop and rethink their lives. It's a good thing. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. But to arrive at a point of healing will take whatever. It might be financial ruin. It might be a crisis in life. It might be a family breakdown. It might be the world torn apart. Divorces. Businesses collapsing. Once the pirates enter the ship and start stealing from the people and start destroying the ship from the inside, the ship is going to sink. Nobody's going to come and rescue the ship once it's already broken. But what has to happen, and what is happening, a new ship will be built. A new ship is being built. But who is going to be on that new ship? Why should the destroyers be invited with the peacemakers? If you like a sit-down refined dinner party, why invite a load of yobs who are drunk and they're into smashing up faces and fighting between each other? It doesn't work. Those who live with a primitive mindset in their ways, they're going to have to do the work. They're going to have to decide they want to be different. And just because, you can go out and get qualified, the higher echelons of society are not really with egos. They know the responsibility they're carrying. And there are those who are economically humble and humbled, and those who are economically in abundance, who can look at all those that have abused, exploited and oppressed people with disgust. So it's very dangerous to sit there and look at a people or a nation of people and accuse everyone in the same brush. There's still a lot of hatred for the Jews. Well, I hate to tell you, but Jesus is Jewish. He's Jewish by birthright. You can't be a Christian and say that you hate Jewish people. You can be a Christian and say you hate yourself and do something about learning to like yourself. You can do the same if you're a Muslim or whatever else. If you're filled with hate for any people, then that hatred is within yourself. It's about you. It's not about anyone else. Why is it that somebody can live totally in peace and live a quiet life, and next door can be fighting and arguing and smashing things up and kicking doors in? Is that about the next door neighbour? No, it's a choice. So before we go blaming and accusing anyone of anything, we need to look at ourselves. We need to look in a mirror. We need to accept we've probably made a lot of mistakes. We may have even hurt people unintentionally, but if we've done it intentionally, then we must pay the price. That's how it is. No one gets away with anything that they do. I'm reminded of a woman who went out to try and marry somebody who was marrying someone else, and she did everything to try and lure this man back. Oh yes, she got married. She got married by getting pregnant. Several years down the line she got divorced. He was a wealthy man, and it cost him very dearly financially too. But it cost him the marriage with the woman that he loved. When you compromise people and you push them and you interfere with other people's destiny, it doesn't really matter that that man married. He had the children that he really wanted. The woman who wanted financial security went on to marry another man. She didn't look for love, but she might have said, "I love you." And that is a choice. The reality is the life that you choose is the life you make. And if you're going to compromise yourself to seemingly get ahead, you will discover that that life is not perfect. But to live a simple life, to be grateful for what you've got, to be surrounded by good people, or even have one or two good people in your life, you're blessed. To have food in your stomach and a roof over your head, to be able to have an income without compromising anyone else, to be able to do good deeds and share with other people and help other people, and other people help you. That's how the world goes round. Sowing good seeds in spring, they flourish in the summer. And as we sow our seeds of goodness with other people, not only are we shining the light of goodness, we're feeding that goodness within ourselves. We don't know if we help someone, if they're going to help us back. That's not what giving and helping other people is about. But later on down the line, goodness might come from another person. You might know someone who's exceedingly generous, and you might not be in a position to give materialistically. But later on down the line, you might be the person who gives of your time, your expertise. You might be in a different financial position and be generous to someone else by your choice. But when you're being influenced and manipulated to do something that you don't really want to do, and you're caught up in a cycle of trying to impress, or you're following a leader who's misleading you, that's not good at all. So I would say, step outside every so often, or just close your eyes and find a quiet space and think about you, what's going on for you. What do you really want? What do you really need in life? What is most important to you? And start from there. And if you are healing, take one day at a time. It's a process. It isn't a sudden destination. When you're changing a life of one that has caused pain and suffering into one that's bliss, calm and peaceful, that takes time. It takes one day at a time. When we form habits on a daily basis and reinforce those habits, they can become a way of life, and healing is a way of life. Healing is a choice. So take one day at a time, and don't be hard on yourself, and don't be tempted to try and impress, because who you are is the most impressible person that there is. Don't worry about what you wear. Be individual. Wear those hand-me-downs. Wear those clothes that have been remade. In our times when we were younger, our mother designed homemade clothes and made their own little adaptations. We were all wearing our individual designer clothes made by someone who loved us very much. Those clothes, when our loved ones have gone, is the realization they are priceless. As long as you can go to bed at night and sleep peacefully, you haven't harmed anybody, even if you've been hurt. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, or the next day. But it isn't the way to retaliate, and it isn't the way to continually suffer and punish yourself, especially for something that you didn't do, and you certainly wouldn't want to have a part of. There's a far greater power watching over all of us. The stuff that's going on, the bad stuff, has happened before. It's been warned that it would happen again, but there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Let the joy of spring reach into your heart, and know when the sun starts shining again and new growth starts appearing on the ground, that's when the new season has started to flourish. There's no turning back, and we're in this new season now. It is a season of healing, and it can be a year of whatever we make it out to be. So plant those seeds, or whatever's important for you, and keep planting. And keep looking to the future, taking one day at a time, not rushing too far forward, not looking back to what was pain in the past. We might have to revisit the pain in the past to heal it, but you're no longer living in the past. The past is now, the past is gone. We're in a new moment.